Hey everybody, this is Synoptic, Victor Diercksen from Synoptic. How you doing today? We're going to be doing our ERP Shootout number 2. We usually wait 1 or 2 minutes just in case there's a few people that show up a little bit late. So we'll be starting here in just about a minute. Thank you for attending. We're looking forward to the webinar today. I hope you are as well. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll be starting here in just about a minute. See if there's anyone else joining today. All right, here we go. I think we're ready to start. So as I mentioned before, our ERP Shootout number 2. And in this webinar, we're going to be comparing Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central to Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, also known as Supply Chain. Excuse me. Sorry. Always happens when I start talking. This is the second version of this webinar. We had this similar webinar about a month ago. And in this one today, we're going to be going a little deeper where we're actually going to be showing you screens from each of the two systems and how the two compare. But what we will be covering, and there's going to be a little bit of overlap from the last webinar, is how we understand your world, your ERP, and what you need and why, feature comparisons, short demonstration, and then at the end, we're going to give you some special ERP assessment offers, only available to those of you who attended this webinar today. My name is Victor Diercksen. As I mentioned before, I'm the practice manager for Dynamics 365 Business Central here at Synoptic. Nanditha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Victor. Good morning and good day to all of you, depending on which part of the world you're logging in. My name is Nanditha Kini, and I work as a senior manager as part of the Dynamics practice at Synoptek. And on behalf of all of us, we'd like to welcome you to this webinar today.
Okay, so before we jump to the next slide, there's going to be a poll question that jumps up on your screen. We do ask that you answer that. This information is actually really useful for us for building future webinars and helping tailor them to make them more valuable for you. The question is going to be, what are your 3 primary requirements from a new ERP system if you were to select them? And there's going to be 5 different options there. Please pick the one that you think is most relevant for you. Okay, Nanditha, you want to take over again?
Yeah, thank you, Victor. So let's talk a bit about why Microsoft ERPs are a good choice amongst all of the top of the line or creme de la creme of the ERP solutions on offer today. So the first facet that we'll discuss is the fact that all Microsoft ERPs offer the cloud option, which means no installation hassle or upfront infrastructure investment. So with the cloud option, what happens is that the amount that you spend on a CapEx or capital expenditure is a lot lesser because most of it will be on operating expenses such as licensing and bare minimum expenses in case you need to get computers or devices for your employees to access the cloud-based systems, right? The second part is that licensing costs are upfront, clear, and there are no hidden costs involved that you'll have to encounter or pay up as you go along. And with the cloud version, it's easy because it's pay as you go and depending on what you use. The third point I'd like to talk about is that ERP systems from Microsoft are scalable, which means that no matter which way your business grows, naturally or vertically, the ERP is capable enough to scale up to match the growth trajectory that your company takes. Microsoft literally offers something for everyone. So there are multiple options available in terms of ERP solutions for different sized companies working in different verticals or industries. Small and medium businesses can opt for the Dynamics 365 for Business Central, while the enterprises can opt for Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations. In addition to this, there are add-on modules which are available to cater to specific requirements, as well as ISV solutions which are readily available in the market from different Microsoft partners today. These would be able to take care of specific needs or specific requirements or customized requirements for certain vertical solutions which may or may not be available in the manner that the vertical solution company wants to work with the ERP. Apart from this, last but not the least, is that Microsoft constantly works on improving customer experience, which means that the system is constantly evolving. But the fact that it's on, you have the choice of taking this to the cloud makes it easy for you to be able to track and go ahead with your upgrades. Okay. So let's talk about a success story. Now, success stories are interesting because they also kind of reflect the case studies of what we've worked with, our experiences of having worked with Microsoft Dynamics ERP, right? So here we'd like to talk about an industrial, commercial, and residential energy company which was purchased by a private equity company, and that made the decision for them to right fit their business and technology needs with Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. So the bigger change here was that they had been using SAP, and most of the users showed a lot of happiness and satisfaction at having shifted to D365 for F&O, simply because it was easier to use than a more rigid SAP solution. So apart from this, all of the dependent operational and financial applications from the legacy systems were integrated and transitioned to the Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations system to provide a seamless process for the business. Coupling this with the semi-automated processes which D365 is known for, especially in the financial domain, users were definitely more than happy to move to a newer system and work with this. So these integrations and related processes made it possible for the application to meet the business needs of the users. So the users were happy and the management was happy as well. So in addition to that, what also helped was the fact that the processes were automated, the integrations worked without any glitches, delays, and with the employees being able to access critical focal point data required for them to make smart decisions based on hard facts. Over to you, Victor.
Yeah, thanks. The other success story we want to share with you was a Business Central client that I implemented several years ago. It was a small company in Seattle, Washington, that had been a family-owned company for about 30 years. And this was a printing company where they made a lot of specialty envelopes and small knickknacks. They sold through a chain of private stores across the country. Their printing process was mostly outsourced, and as a result, they'd never really known what their full COGS were for their inventory. After we implemented Business Central, we also deployed a solution that allowed them to capture their outsourced printing costs. And within 6 months, they had actual COGS for their inventory, which, much to their surprise, was a lot higher than what they thought. It was going to be about 30% higher, actually. And what happened was, over the years, as their company had grown, they had neglected to reset their default print size. And in the printing industry, the print run size has a huge effect on your costs, because at least half of the cost is the setup of the printing machines themselves. So as a result, they doubled their standard print size and were able to reduce their COGS by over 30%, which was enough of a savings to actually save them more in inventory costs every year than what the Business Central implementation had cost them. So that ERP solution was paying for itself every single year. It was a great solution. So we have another poll question for you. Are you considering an upgrade to Dynamics 365 Business Central or F&O? That poll should be popping up on your screen here in just a second. And we're going to continue forward with our presentation. So what are some of the differences between Business Central and Finance and Operations slash supply chain? So as you can see here, Business Central is really targeted for the small to medium-sized business. right? Typically 1 to 5 inventory locations, typically 1 production BOM per item if you do manufacturing. Something like QA is not included because most Business Central clients don't need it, so it's not there to increase the cost or increase the functionality and complexity. And you can see some of the other comparisons here as well. Finance and operations and supply chain are generally for much larger, sophisticated company. That product is in what they call the enterprise realm. And then, Nanditha, would you like to comment a little bit more on what the typical F&O or supply chain customer is like?
Sure, Victor. So when we look at F&O customers, F&O is where the operations part covers supply chain management and most of the industry-related verticals. Normally target enterprise-related customers. Enterprise customers could be customers with multiple companies across the globe, or with a revenue of a certain amount, or with more than, I think, about 250 to 300 and larger number of users, right? Those are the kind of companies that the F&O and supply chain, D365 for finance and supply chain management partners would target. So when we look at inventory, we have several levels of warehouse management locations that you can track your products in. Typically we have the site, warehouse, aisle, rack, bin, but now you also have license plates and even owners to track who the owners of your products are, whether they're external parties such as your vendors, etc. So you have all of those tracking dimensions. You also have multiple BOMs that you can create per product. You can create a BOM by site, warehouse, quantity. And you can also have sophisticated intercompany and cross-company inventory visibility, as well as intercompany transactions across purchase and sale, right? Costing, yeah, sorry, Victor, please go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. So I think the last 3 bullet points really kind of targets for us like the difference between these 2 solutions. Like I mentioned, Business Central is really targeted for smaller businesses. And so there's a lot of functionality that's not included because half or more of the Business Central clients don't particularly need that. So for example, Business Central supports manufacturing, but does not have a process manufacturing built into it, whereas supply chain does. Business Central does not have configuration management or commission management. If a client needs those, we have a whole ecosystem of third-party vendors who supply those solutions. So we can mix and match the specific functionality that you need as the end user, so that you're only buying and supporting and paying for exactly what you need. You're not buying a whole bunch of bloatware that you don't need. Whereas an enterprise client typically would need all that functionality. So that all comes out of the box with an F&O and supply chain solution.
Absolutely.
Yep. So what's the profiles of a company that would be implementing these 2 solutions, and what would it cost? So for example, here you can see for Business Central, again, I said it's small to mid-size, generally between 25 to 500 employees, at least 10 users, so they can scale up from there. Typical implementation. Now, there's a huge range here, of course, because it depends on the size of your company, whether you have distribution or manufacturing. But a small accounting only project would be about $15,000. If you had a large multi-site manufacturing environment, Business Central, you could be looking at $500,000 to $700,000 implementation, and on and on. Nanditha, would you like to comment on the F&O supply chain side?
Sure, Victor. Thank you. So when we talk about the finance and supply chain management, we're talking mid to enterprise-sized companies, with users that could range anywhere between 200 to 50 to 2,000 and more users, right? And the minimum number of users that the system mandates is 20. That's also the number of bare minimum of licenses of D365 for finance and supply chain management that a company is mandated to purchase in order to use the system. Right. So when we talk about the industries that this is offered to, of course, we look at distribution, supply chain, and logistics. We're looking at finance, financial industries, financial services. We're looking at manufacturing in all 3 branches of manufacturing, which is lean, process, and discrete. We have industry solutions specifically for the retail and now e-commerce industry as well, along with a suite for professional services and for the public sector. So these are the different industries that the supply chain management application is aimed at, and the implementation cost can be anywhere upward of $100,000 to $1 million. The deployment time frame normally takes about 180 to a year. That just depends on how many companies, how many single legal entities under the same company umbrella we need to carry out the implementation for. And yes, of course, there is multilingual support with over 30 languages being catered to within this ERP system. So, in terms of scalability, this system is fit for businesses that process anywhere upward of 100,000 transactions, and it's designed to work out of the box with other D365 components, peripheral applications such as Power BI, Dynamics 365 CRM, and the Power Platform applications, as well as Microsoft's new AI-based insights applications as well. Now, in terms of types of license, this runs on a subscription model where you pay for what you use based on what licenses you buy. So it is important for a company to invest a little bit of time and to take out the effort to be able to determine what kind of licenses they would need. Of course, that is scalable up and down once you start using the system, but it's always good to start with a foundation. Over to you, Victor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nanditha. So on this next slide, you can see a little more detail behind what level of functionality is available with each of the different solutions. As you can see, in some areas, for example, management reporting or financial reporting, both solutions have a full full functionality for that particular need, mobile device support and others. But in a lot of these other areas, you can see, for example, like transportation management, what are called TMS or transportation management systems, is not included with Business Central, but often is. Those kinds of advanced features typically are included with an F&O supply chain solution. I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but if you want to watch the video later, you could pause on the screen and compare notes. Again, like I said, on all of these points where we don't have the full functionality in Business Central or have like limited capabilities, we often employ a third-party solution, an add-on solution that integrates inside of Business Central so thoroughly that most people don't even realize they're using an add-on solution. So you can pick and choose the specific needs that you have without having to pay for a lot of functionality you're never gonna use. So let's take a look at the two systems and see what they actually look like. So we're going to be showing you some screenshots of common functions or features of the two systems, things that you would be able to look forward to if you wanted to implement one system or the other. So the first thing we're going to talk about are what are called role centers and workspaces. So the two systems have a very similar concept. In Business Central is referred to a role center, whereas in supply chain is called a workspace. And what this does is in Business Central, which is the screen that's a little bit back and up and to the left, you have what are called role centers. And out of the box, Business Central comes with, I'm suddenly drawing a blank. I think it's like 30 role centers that are predefined, all the way from business manager to IT manager to accounts payable to operations, as you can imagine. And what happens is the menus that you see and the screens and the buttons that you see on your home screen, which is what we're looking at here, will change based on your role center. So what it does is it streamlines the system and provides people with that role with exactly what they need from a day-to-day basis. Now, in addition to the 30 that come out of the box, we can build custom roles as well. So if you have a position in your company that's a little different from what Microsoft has pre-built, we can custom design a role so that that person has exactly what they need to on their screen when they log into Business Central every day. Nanditha, would you like to talk about workspaces?
Thank you, Victor. So workspaces are very similar to role centers. They're a one-stop ready reference for data. Now, when I say data, I mean data in terms of graphical representations of any tasks that users may have, depending on the role they play in the organization and depending on the kind of workspace that they have access to. So the workspace gives them a tile count of different transactions. It also gives them a list of critical transactions, such as tasks that need to be done, tasks which will get to be completed. So for an accounts payable person, they could be looking at overdue invoices that need to be paid ASAP, or they could be looking at payments due for the day. In terms of links, each workspace provides you with different links to critical masters, reports, and transaction-related forms based on the kind of workspace that you access. All right, we'll move to the next slide.
So here's a little bit clear view of the role center in Business Central. If you want to come back and take a closer look at this one. And then on the next slide, we have a little closer look with a little more information about Workspaces in finance and operations. Okay, so let's talk now about reporting. And so when we talk about reporting, Business Central comes with the full suite of out-of-the-box, what I refer to as operational reports. Things like the AR aging, the AP aging, financial reports, inventory valuation reports, those kinds of things. But when you talk about higher level reports, say executive dashboards or analytical or financial reports, more detailed financial reports, we always turn to Microsoft's reporting platform, which is called Power BI. Now with Power BI, you can actually build standalone reports that run within the Power BI screen, which is often useful for executives who don't need to get into Business Central. The licensing for Power BI is much less than a license for Business Central, but at the same time, you can integrate or embed a Power BI report inside of Business Central itself. So if you were looking at a customer and you wanted to see 5-year trend on sales history, for example, you could actually build a Power BI report, embed it in the customer screen, and then it would filter by whatever customer you're looking at to show you that 5-year trend. And here you can see an example of an executive dashboard if you're using the Power BI inside of finance and operations. Nanditha, would you like to comment on this one?
Sure, Victor. Thank you so much. So when we talk about the workspaces within D365 for finance and operations, they're built not just according to role, but according to the different business areas or the modules or the functions that they intend to cover. So the good news about workspaces is you don't just have to use what's offered to you as a user. You can also create your own workspaces by using minimal technical help or technical assistance. It's easy to do so within D365 for finance and operations. Couple that with the fact that we have embedded Power BI within the D365 for finance and operations ERP, and you have a Power Factory that's going for you in terms of building workspaces that you can use, along with the graphs and charts that Power BI can offer to you. So you can create your own workspaces, you can use the workspaces that are provided to you, and you can also amend the workspaces that have been provided to you within the system. Okay. You can also use Power BI Desktop or Power BI Premium to create and display reports with data from D365 for finance and operations as well.
Okay, so another really nice feature of Business Central and finance and operations are in Business Central called Bookmarks, and in F&O are called Favorites. So we're going to be explaining what both of these look like. Here you can see a comparison of the two. So you can add a favorite, or I'm sorry, you can add a bookmark in Business Central and a favorite in F&O. Now, how do you add those and where do they go? So as you can see here on the screen, directly underneath the company name, which is your link back to your home screen, there's a list of bookmarks. And you can see it starts out, the typical role center starts out with 4 bookmarks. Now, if you want, you as the user can add or remove bookmarks anytime you want. And how you do that is anytime you're looking at a screen, in this case here, I have an example of a search screen. This particular scenario, I was looking for fixed assets. Let's say I'm an accounting user and I need to go to fixed assets on a regular basis. Right here from within the list, the search list, or within the fixed asset screen itself, you just click on that little bookmark icon, and the instant you click on it, it adds bookmarks to that particular bookmark to your bookmark menu at the top. Like I said, this is unique to you as the individual user, so you can tailor those bookmarks, add them or take them away at your discretion. It's immediate. It affects your home screen immediately. And the nice thing about this is I found most people use the same 5 or 6 screens 90% of the time. And so you can add those 5 or 6 screens as your bookmarks, tailor it exactly the way you want it to, and you got 90% of what you need right there in your bookmarks for you as your personal user. It does not affect anybody else's screens inside of the company. Nanditha, would you like to talk about favorites?
Thank you, Victor. Yes. Favorites kind of mirror what are known as bookmarks in Business Central, except for a few differences. The favorite section kind of mirrors or was leveraged from the popular bookmarks in the favorite section that was used within browsers such as Internet Explorer. So those of you familiar with using Internet Explorer would be familiar with how this really works within Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. So what we do is we have a section within the navigation pane called the favorite section here. Within that, you'd be able to view your different favorites. Now, how do you actually go ahead and add them? Let's say I want to add a specific form to my favorite section for me to be able to easily access it later when I need to do so. All I have to do is navigate first time to the module, click on the section where the form is, and right next to each of the forms within all of the modules in D365 for Finance and Operations, I do find a star icon. So once you click on the star icon, what happens is that that form gets transferred to the favorite section. So when you actually click on your favorites menu the next time around, you'll be able to see a list of all of those forms which you've marked as favorites, and these will be displayed to you in alphabetical order. So that's how easy it is to be able to add forms to your favorite section. And you can do this to any type of form which is there within any of the modules of D365 for finance and operations.
Okay, here's another great option with Microsoft ERP Solutions is since it's part of the Microsoft family of products, one of the things you'll notice is there's really tight integration between those different products. And one of the things we're going to look at here is something called Edit in Excel. Now, surprisingly, this operates exactly as you would think from the description. Yes, you can open things in Excel and edit them directly back to the system. And you notice the same function operates in both systems. So I'm going to show you a couple of screens of how that works with Business Central. And then Nanditha will show you how that works with F&O. So here you notice on any screen, there's a menu option at the top where you click on page, and there's an option there to say edit in Excel. Now we can control this through security. So if you wanted to, and you probably don't want to give this to every employee in the company, the ability to edit your chart of accounts or your customers. But this is a great way for us now these days to load a lot of the opening list. Like if we start working with the customer, you give us your chart of accounts, we'll run through this edit in Excel to load those initial chart of accounts into the system. Because what it does is it opens an Excel spreadsheet on your desktop. And the first time you go to run the edit in Excel, it will install this little app, which you see in the window on the right, which is a Microsoft Dynamics Links add-in, which can install in Microsoft Excel. Now here you can see that you have your full list of chart of accounts. If you want to change something, you can change it right here in the spreadsheet. And then when you're done, in the bottom right corner, you hit Publish. And what it does is it takes your changes and pushes them back into Business Central. Now it validates the data as it's doing it. And if there's anything wrong, like let's say you typed in too many characters in the description maybe, or like you included something in one of the list fields that was not part of the original list, it will flag that and show it to you so you can fix it and then publish it again. So like I said, accounting people in particular love this feature. It's very useful. Nanditha, would you like to cover how that works in finance and operation?
Yes, Victor, thank you. So when we look at Edit in Excel in Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations, it uses the Excel add-in that's present within the ERP. So what we do is all of our users will be able to edit main master forms, including the main accounts, which is the chart of accounts, essentially the chart of accounts, but called as main account within Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations for that specific legal entity or company. So let's take a look at how that works. So going back to my previous slide for a minute. So I have my chart of account open here. So what I can do is if I need to edit a specific account or a specific set of accounts, and I'd like to do it en masse within Excel to make sure that it's done faster, all I need to do is click on the Office Addin icon here and click on Open in Excel here. So what happens then is that the system opens the entire form within Excel, after which I can make changes to any of the fields which are not mandatory within the Excel sheet, and the system will update it live as soon as I click on the Publish button here. Of course, the system will validate for the format, for the kind of content that you're putting in, and for also whether the characters that you've input into a specific field match the allowed characters in for that specific field or not. All right, Victor.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to step aside for just a second. We have gotten a couple of the poll responses back. So one of the questions so far that we've asked was, are you considering an upgrade to Business Central or F&O? 100% said yes. So all of you watching are considering an upgrade to one of these two systems. That's exciting. The other question was, what is your primary driver? So eliminating spreadsheets is 40%, improved customer service is 40%, and streamlining orders is 20%. So that's an interesting response. I wouldn't have expected that so much on the sales order side. Okay, copy and paste. So here's another great feature that comes with Business Central. And a lot of people find this really exciting. Just like it sounds, you can actually copy from Excel and paste it directly into a journal, in this case, inside of both systems. So we're going to look at Business Central first. Now, the one caveat is your Excel spreadsheet has to have the exact same layout as the journal that you're pasting it into. So that means the column names and data all have to align with the journal that you're trying to get it into. The easiest way to do that is to use this other option in Business Central called Open in Excel. And when you click that button, what happens is it opens an Excel spreadsheet with the exact same column layout of the journal that you were just looking at. Now you can go through and fill in all the information that you need with all your journal entries. And then when you're done, you simply copy those journal entries. And then here you can see I pasted them right back into that journal. Now, this may seem like a nice feature, but I can tell you I've implemented Business Central with several customers where they do very large month-end journal entries as part of their normal routine. Like they're doing intercompany eliminations, they're doing accrued expenses, all kinds of stuff throughout, for at the end of the month. And those particular customers already had a format in their Excel spreadsheet that they'd been using for years, and then was built into a bunch of functions inside of that spreadsheet. And so what we've done in the past is actually take this general journal screen and make a custom version of that, which only took maybe an hour or two of coding, and then gave them a custom journal screen where the columns perfectly matched their Excel spreadsheet. So they were able to continue to function with the Excel tools that they developed over years and years and years, and had very finally, smoothed out the processes. And they could continue to use those Excel spreadsheets and then just copy and paste those spreadsheets right into journals and then post them. And if you want to, you can even put an approval process attached to that as well. We also have a workflow to approve those journals. So it really streamlined the upgrade process and minimized the amount of disruption to their accounting team, which had these, like I said, these built-in functions that they've been using for years. Nanditha, would you like to cover how that works with finance and operations?
Yes, Victor, thank you. So when we look at opening lines in Excel for specific transactions, such as the one that we've taken here in terms of general journals, what you can do is you can open any specific journal that you have, any type of general journal, any type of transaction within Excel, and you can actually edit those transaction lines in Excel and have them re-imported or republished back into the Dynamics 365 for F&O system. So here we're taking a look at one of the general journals that we have. We've used the open lines in Excel, and on our next screen, we'd be able to see what the general journal entry would look like when it's opened in Excel. So you'll have all of the different lines populated here for you to be able to fill in, and once you click on publish, you'll be able to publish the data real-time back into the D365 Finance and Operations system. So this works a little differently from copying directly into Excel from your general journal or from your ERP system, but it works in a similar manner where you could just export the entire thing real time, have your changes made in Excel, and then push or publish the changed journal entry or the changed transaction back into the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations ERP.
Okay, so the next one, this is another one I'm excited about, which has actually been around for a while, most people don't know about, is the ability to do online reporting with drill down capabilities. We're going to be looking specifically at the trial balance, which is a report that people commonly use in accounting departments. Almost every accounting department, I think, uses a trial balance. And in Business Central, it's called the GL balance screen. So a lot of people, companies, when I start working with them, they'll say, how do I run a trial balance? And I say, well, you can run a trial balance report, but if you use this GL balance screen, it's actually a lot more powerful because you're not printing out a bunch of paper. You can change your filters at the top, so you can change how you want to look at the data. For example, if you want to look at it by month or by week or by day, if you want to look at it net change or balance. But the really nice thing about this is it calculates all the data real time. And any of the numbers that you see on the screen here, you can actually click and drill down to look at the specific entries that make up that particular number. Now, this is the demo company, and in that particular case, there was only one general ledger entry for that account. But I think you get the idea here that you can look at all the detail, and if you see something that stands out that you think is something that you want to look at or research to make sure it was posted correctly, we have this function under the entry menu where you can say find entries. And what that does is it opens up a search screen where it finds every record in the system with that particular document number. Now, from here, you can drill down and look at all of the GL entries related to that specific transaction. In this case, there was only 2, but sometimes with the sales order, you could have 8, 10, 12 different GL entries with all the revenue and AR and all those kind of entries. And in particular, in this case, you notice that this transaction came from a vendor payment. And so you can actually go look at the vendor payment. You can look at the detailed vendor entries, which really just tells you what invoice that payment was applied to, if you need to research that. If you want to see if it's been reconciled in your bank account, you can go to the bank ledger entry to see the status there. This is a great tool for day-to-day research as well as for auditors. If they start asking you questions and they want you to drill down into a transaction to see where it came from, it's invaluable. People really love this. Once I show this to them, a lot of times they get really excited. Nanditha, would you like to cover that function in finance and operations?
Yes, Victor, thank you so much. I'm pretty excited about this particular feature. This is one of my favorites when we talk about, excuse me, either presenting it to our clients or implementing it for them. So this feature is about accessing an online trial balance with real-time data, right? And in FNO, there are 3 options that you could use to do so. So let's talk about option 1. Option 1 is a simple one where you can access a ready-to-use trial balance from the inquiries and reports section of the GL module. So what we do in that case is we access the GL module, go into the inquiries and reports section, and we click on trial balance. Now, what happens when you click on trial balance is that you get a form with a set of parameters that you need to fill in terms of the date range for which you need the information, as well as the the dimension set that you want to use. For those of you familiar with financial dimensions, you would know that financial dimensions are nothing but facets of posting your transactions in terms of tracking other parameters of transactions, such as your department or cost center purpose, or any of the financial dimensions that you want to track your transactions by. So you can also choose the dimensions, and you can choose specific main accounts, and you can actually click on calculate balance, and you'll be able to see the entire trial balance for your different set of ledger accounts. Okay, that's option 1. Now, option 2 is by using what we call the financial reporting tool within the GL module in Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations. So when you use the financial reporting tool, this gives you the option to be able to build your own trial balance to showcase it exactly in the format that you want to, or you can use the system provided standard format, which is what we're going to showcase to you in a minute. So within financial reports, you can design your own trial balance to showcase how it would appear. So here too, you get a set of standard reports which are available, which, as I mentioned a minute ago, you can use, or you can choose to build your own using the Excel-like template that the system provides to you. So when you click on trial balance, you will be able to get a trial balance which you can then further drill down to individual transactions. So this just shows you all accounts and the debit and credit balances. But when you click on all accounts, you can further drill down to individual accounts that make up the entire trial balance. And you can further drill down from the individual accounts to the individual transactions which make up the balance of that particular account as well. All right. Now, in terms of option 3, there's another option where you can actually use another report within the financial reporting system called the detailed trial balance. So once you click on the detailed trial balance, you'll be able to see the same report here. The last option here is to be able to use the financial analysis workspace, which has an inbuilt trial balance for you to be able to view the trial balance in a print format within the D365 Finance and Operations system. All right, so these are 3 different options that are available to you to be able to view an online trial balance within the Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations ERP. All right, Victor.
Yeah,
So we
sorry,
move
I,
to
I was I was on mute there for a second. Had a hard time getting enough. So the last one that we're going to be showing you today is another exciting one, and there's a lot of options with the new SaaS environments that Microsoft is rolling out. And we're only going to show you a couple, but I can guarantee you these are only scratching the surface. We're going to show you how to use the workflow approval process and how to do an email for an order confirmation, for example, from a sales order. So here you can see from Business Central, Finance and Operations, both systems have the same functions. We're going to look at Business Central first. So for Business Central, for the workflow automation option, what you're allowed to do is you can set up what is called Power Automate, which is a separate tool, kind of like Power BI. It's a separate system, although it's specifically designed just for workflow automation. And the way you trigger that is under a sale, in this case, in this example, sales order, you go to a menu where you say request approval, and you have an option there to say send approval request. Now, Microsoft's theory on this is they thought it was inefficient to have workflow engines in each of their different systems, right? So Business Central, Finance and Operations, CE, which is their CRM solution. And so they built a separate standalone workflow tool that can integrate from any of their internal systems, but also integrate with external systems as well. So by having it as a separate standalone tool, it gives you a lot more power in that you could potentially trigger a workflow automation inside of Business Central and F&O, which would trigger, for example, an approval message inside of, say, Salesforce, right? Or some other third-party tool. It's not even a Microsoft product, if you decide to go that route. So it gives you a lot more power and a lot more flexibility, and you can create these workflows to be as powerful as you want. I mean, you can have multiple steps. You can have approvals based on dollar volumes, based on the person's manager, on their hierarchy, or the organizational structure you have set up in Active Directory. And then you can have the approvals, like I mentioned, appear in a third-party system, appear in email, or appear in a chat inside of Teams. And you can see all the details and just approve it right there inside of your Outlook email or inside of your Teams chat. Now, the other great thing that they have built into the system is the ability to communicate with customers, in this case, to send an email confirmation right within the order. You can click Print Send, and you click the option for email confirmation, and it'll build an email and send it off to the customer of record and their email, their default email address, depending on who you have on that order. Now, the nice thing about this is when you manually click on that button for email confirmation, you're actually clicking what's called a code unit, which you can trigger from a third-party system or separately inside of Business Central. So if you wanted to do this manually, you could. But my point is you can also build what we call a job queue that triggers maybe once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, that it would trigger those email confirmations automatically based on certain criteria that you could define. Or once you're done building a sales order, you could have it triggered automatically when you release the order, saying that, hey, I just released it to the warehouse to ship, but I want to send the order confirmation to confirm everything with the customers. So, I mean, it's extremely flexible in how you want to set up and trigger that. If it's manual, if it's automated, it's really up to you. So I know we have an exciting feature like that in finance and operations. Nanditha, you want to tell us about it?
Yes, Victor, thank you. So workflow automation is available for a couple of processes within the D365 Finance and Operations ERP within multiple modules. So there are standard set of processes for which workflow is available, and if you need workflow to be available for other processes or for some processes for which it's not currently available, then it is easy for us to do a customization. So that's one part of it. The second part is that workflow is available for over 50 processes within this system. It can be set at one or multiple levels of hierarchies based on the multitude of conditions, such as the amounts that need to be approved, the departments for which the process is being run. Just to give you an example, right? Who the requester is, who the approver is, which team, department, or purpose for which the workflow is being executed. So it can be assigned laterally in advance if a particular manager is unavailable. So you can literally have a backup if you know that, let's say, a manager is going on a leave of absence from work, on vacation for a certain period, then you can have a lateral delegate to that manager, receive all the workflow notifications for that period, so that there are no delays in the processing of certain documents or critical tasks. You can also have conditional and sub workflows available within workflows to ensure that not just header level transactions, but also line level transactions run through specific set of workflow processes as well. So, as I mentioned a little earlier, each module has its own set of workflows, which is found within the setup section of each module. So, when you click on setups on the setup section for module, you'll be able to see the module-specific workflows, within which you'll be able to see the different transactions that have inbuilt workflow templates, which you can further define and edit according to the usage for your company. So the one showcased here is a purchase requisition workflow, where what you can do is click on submit after you've entered all of the different details to submit a specific purchase requisition for approval. And what happens is, what we've showcased to you here is the actual purchase requisition workflow design. So you can see that it's a flexible flowchart based process. So you can actually define different steps and conditional workflows, which then lead to the end of the process depending on the result of the different conditions that you've identified as part of your workflow process. And you can put in innumerable steps in between depending on the kind of levels of approval, depending on the kinds of roles and positions of people who are involved in a particular workflow process. You can also have auto approval in case you don't have a lateral delegate and someone goes on leave. You can also have an auto approval or an auto rejection process, whereby if a particular workflow process is not actioned upon within a certain specified period of time, you can set the process to either auto approve or to be auto rejected, in which case a notification goes back to the requester who will have to resubmit the same. All right, Victor, over to you to talk about the ERP Evaluation Assessment.
Yeah, we're running a little late on our time in. Thank you for sticking with us. If you need to jump off because we run over time, please feel free to do so. We'll be sending you a follow-up email with a link to this and the prior webinar if you'd like to see that one, as well as information on how to respond for the assessment or a personal consultation if you'd like some, like one-on-one conversations about each of the products and which one would be a better fit for you in your implementation process. We do have some special offers for those of you that have attended the webinar today. I'll get to those in just a second, but here's what an assessment does is we'll do a high-level review of your current business and your system and your processes and where you're at. And then based on that, we'll give you a deliverable, which is a document stating which product would be a better solution for you, what would the implementation look like, what would be a rough estimate on costs, give you some idea on what you'd be looking at from a budget perspective. And a lot of times people find these assessments very valuable. A lot of times you learn a lot about your business going through these assessments that you wouldn't have known ahead of time. We have a couple different options. Option 1 is a quick start assessment, one person for 2 days. Option 2 is a little more detailed, where we have a couple people get a little more detail into your particular needs. And based on which option you would like to explore, you can get either 50% off the final price of the assessment, $100 gift card, and then if you refer a friend, a colleague at a different company to sign up for an assessment with us, you'll also get a 100% gift card as a referral bonus. So if it's something that you're interested, please respond to that follow-up email that the marketing group will be coming to you. And we have one last slide, and this is just a little bit of information about Synoptic in general. We are a global solutions company. We provide pretty much soup to nuts on everything that you would potentially need. So we obviously do business applications like Dynamics 365 CE, F&O, Business Central. We have teams of people that specialize in Power Automate, Power BI, SharePoint, and we also have an infrastructure team that could help you with managing your servers or configuring laptops and providing tier 1 support for your company. So outside of ERP and CRM solutions, we actually have a lot to offer to your company if you're interested in that. And with that, I think we're good for today. Nanditha, is there anything else you'd like to provide before we let everyone go?
No, Victor. I think we've covered everything there is to cover as part of our presentation for today. So I
All
think
right.
we just need to say thank you to everyone for spending the time to attend this webinar. And we hope you've had sufficient information to help you, achieve your objectives in learning about Microsoft Dynamics ERP, the different kinds of ERP that Microsoft Dynamics offers.
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for attending, and I hope to hear from at least some of you very soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye and have a good day.